All right, you're going to make us smarter. One element from each game. John, you're the lead off here. What have you seen in Geelong's game? Who's the most important player to your eye?
Well, there's a lot of important players, and I didn't really select the most important player, just one that I really looked at in regards to a structural sense. It's a bit different than most teams. A lot of teams use their wings, particularly to get ground shape. Geelong seemed to use one wing in particular to be a bit more attacking and to really pull the opposition apart. And I looked at Ollie Dempsey a couple of weeks ago and his game against in Brisbane, and really, if we have a look now, he moves, he makes decisions earlier than any player really in the midfield that is currently playing this weekend. And his decisions to go against young Levi Ashcroft here were always quick. He's on the go all the time. His reaction time to run offensively is elite. And you can just see the gap he puts on young Levi just going forward hard. And it really pulls the opposition defence apart by him bursting forward. He does it quite regularly. You can just see from a stoppage, he's actually goal side here inside his forward 50. And the decision, if you make, just pause it there. And you can just see him make those quick decisions, reading the cues of his opponent, of his teammates up the ground who are on the right side of their opponents. And you can see that they're going to win it if we just keep it running now. He makes that decision so early, and he's able to burst outside there. Ashcroft gets caught in between a little bit, and you can just see the way he unsettles the opposition defence by being an attacking wingman, running forward hard. And this last one, Geelong quite, and maybe even at times you can take that luxury because they like to get an extra behind at times to support, particularly when you look at the visual delays that the opposition have in this particular instance. They look up, and it just puts a little bit of delay and uncertainty to what they're seeing ahead of the ball, the opposition, which forces a stop. And you can just see, once again, Dempsey making an early decision, which he can in this case because they've got support back behind the ball. And then the opposition defenders, the Brisbane defenders in this case, who are in front, are caught in no man's land. And you can just see him pulling the opposition defence apart by his proactiveness and his willingness to make good decisions, good attacking decisions early on. And, I'd love to see him against Whateley this week. It'd be a fascinating contest.
That might be at opposite ends of the ground. He's kicked 31 goals. 20 times he's kicked goals from 24 matches, and 10 times he's kicked more than one. So the attacking force. So how do you coach that? So Levi Ashcroft's looking at it going, well, I'm the winger. I've got to push up hard and get to the crumb or try to get numbers up to the outnumber, and he just stands behind him. So what do you say to Levi Ashcroft or whoever's playing on him in that instance?
Really, Gaz, it's about not getting caught in between. If you're going to go, and a couple of times young Levi is a great player, just got caught in between a couple of times. If you've got to go and you think you can influence up the ground, you go hard and you all chips in. You can't be caught halfway because you know that if you're last to leave that stoppage, that he's probably just behind you. And so as the last opposition player, you need to make sure you swivel your head because he will make that early decision to try and pull the opposition apart really quickly. And you need the blokes behind you to be aware of it as well.
Saturday, Simmo, you've got the lead here on what you're seeing in the Lions.
Yeah, Horse has done the fun stuff. I'll do team defence, which is the stuff the players hate. But reality is, and this clip will start in a minute, all these clubs will be doing this. And this started several years ago, and we called it cyclone defence. So it pretty much... And you wonder why sometimes numbers are so high up the ground. And this is about a connected back line. So if you run the clip, you'll see, and this is Brisbane's team defence, I suppose, and this is the epitome of it. So there's a spare loose, he'll squeeze up, therefore the cascade starts. And then eventually there'll be a spare up the ground of which, Barry on the left-hand side and you got a 2v1 on the right-hand side. And this is the modern game. So this is when, at a certain point, all defenders realise, I will press up to the spare on the skinny side where the ball is, and Barry's responsibility is to slide to give some help side support. So this is the modern game. This is why everything's crunched up, and eventually this ball gets kicked down the line. And there is a 2v1 here, but Barry's now not supporting that. He's there to support, if it does break through, to support that back line. So this is called help side support. He gets down there, he creates an extra number, and this is about a team that's really connected defensively where he gets to intercept the game. So skinny side, you'll press up, fat side, you'll slide back, and hence the cyclone type of look. I'm not quite sure if I explained that well enough, but it's complicated. But when the players get it right, and all these 4 teams will do that, they will press up to the most dangerous, knowing that there'll be support coming from the open side.
Yeah, and Geelong's ability to press up so aggressively in that first final against Brisbane was what Collingwood will go to work on. I've got no question about that. Their pressure and their heat and their ability to squeeze up and put pressure on their kickers through the middle of the ground is what ultimately might determine the game. And it's a really interesting one. The next part of the discussion is, we talk selection, so you got Howe and you got Hill potentially sitting there. What again? We talked to you about this last week and the week before. What are the things you factor in?
Well, I'll have the first go at Simmo. They would have had the ability from Collingwood in particular to be able to train for the last couple of weeks. So that's a good sign for those two. You'd imagine with Jeremy Howe putting his hand up that that discussion would be that he'd be likely to be selected if he was feeling well. And Hill maybe, it's tempting. You'd be sitting down having a discussion about a sub role and the repercussions of that if you get an early injury. So, those two are elite players, and this is what you need to do. And a lot of the discussions around finals times are how many can you take in that are underdone, and how much work have they done? And you don't really know that unless you're inside the 4 walls.
John,
the other debate. Oh, sorry.
Go on.
I'm saying the other debate will be not the guys who are outside the side. There'll be 2 or 3 players, Gerard, that will be borderline unavailable through injury. They're carrying something that I don't know if we can get through a game, and the player will be going through the anguish of putting his hand up, knowing he could be 5 minutes in and be sore or unavailable. So they're the ones I found more difficult dealing with. Is the player that perhaps shouldn't be playing, but we need him, and he'll play hurt.
John, just give us a closing word on the trade space. So we referenced it last night around players breaking long-term contracts and where the balance of power is at the moment and what might be done. Do you have a theory?
Well, there's certainly the players wouldn't support the clubs being able to trade without permission from the players, but they'll be absolutely adamant that never happens. And if you sign a long-term contract, at the moment the players still have the ability to be able to get through that contract clearly and be able to still make decisions about where they want to go and want out. I guess the question will be asked by some going forward, is there a way that in long-term contracts that the club has some say in that at some point in time? Maybe a 7 or 8 year deal, do you get to year 5 or 6 and you're able to have the club actually still be able to have a say in where those players go if they wanted to trade them, understanding that the players wouldn't be in favour of that. However, the contract is still honoured, and I just wonder whether those discussions will be happening. I certainly wouldn't be getting much traction with the Players Association, but I'm sure the club.
I think that was pretty clear with Patrick Dangerfield last night. Great to have you both with us, and we look forward to seeing you at the desk in Grand Final week.